Awesome. Hi everyone. My name is Grace. I'm a third year political science student and the director of another person. There we go. Student affairs for the UPS. I want to thank our panelists, Elizabeth, Amelia, Owen, Jenna, Jordan, and Skyla, for so generously giving up your time to be on the panel today. I'm sure you're all extremely busy, so I really appreciate it. And I'm hoping to go to grad school myself, so I'm particularly excited to hear what you have to say. I also want to acknowledge with respect to the Lekwungen, Songhees, and Esquimalt peoples on whose territory the university stands, and the Lekwungen and Wasanich peoples whose historical relationships to the land continue to this day. The plan for today was to start with Dr. Glazos, who's the director of student of graduate studies here at UVic, with some questions about admissions, but he had to cancel last minute due to illness. So the session's going to be a bit shorter than we planned, but that's okay. So we're going to jump right into a discussion with you guys, the grad students, and then we'll have a Q&A session if anyone has any questions that they wanted to ask. So before you answer the first question, if you could introduce yourself and tell us about your program. And if you guys want to just jump in, or I can go alphabetically if that works. So the first question is, why did you choose your subject, program, and university? And how did you decide between the different kinds of programs? So thesis, major research paper, or course-based? Anyone can just start, or I can just ask.
I'm happy to yap. Okay. Hello, my name is Skyla. I use she, her pronouns. So are you asking what program you're in and then like a little bit else about it, or are we just focusing on like why we chose the specific type of program?
Anything you want. So program, university,
Anything?
just what,
Okay,
why
cool.
are you doing what you're doing?
Yeah, so I am studying at Simon Fraser University. I'm doing an MA in political science. There was really only two options within the department, so it was really between course-based or a major research project. The professors in the department are not big fans of the thesis project because they really, really want to focus on teaching academic scholars how to be more concise with their writing ability. So I did my honors at UVic in political science, and I was like, I want to continue doing research. And so I decided to pick the research project option. So I'm enjoying it so far. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, my name's Owen. I use he, they pronouns. I did my undergrad at Queen's with Amelia, and I also have I ended up at LSE, so the London School of Economics, and I'm doing a double degree program. So I'm actually doing two masters at the same time. One is a master's of public administration, and then the other one is a master's of global affairs. And I ended up picking it actually because of money difficulties. I was really stuck between Cambridge Economic History program and LSE's program. And I knew I really, really wanted to do more to try and actually change policy while it was being made. And I also knew that Cambridge was twice the price. And I was like, well, I mean, how much less can I really do at LSE? And I found out I can do just as much at LSE, if not more. And so I'm very happy with the decision I ended up making.
My name is Elizabeth. I use she, her pronouns. I also did my undergrad at Queen's in political studies, and I'm also at Simon Fraser with Skyla. We actually had class today together. So I'm in my master's in political science at SFU, and I'm also in the project option. And for me, similar to what Skyla said, a lot of the professors only encourage the thesis program if you're planning to do a direct entry into a PhD, because the thesis program is about you write about like 18,000 to 20,000 words for your project. So they encourage the research project option because you can actually get it published. So that one's the better option for most students, and I chose research because I had a lot of ideas of like going into something to do with like policy analyst, or stuff like that. So research was the better option than the course-based. And with the course-based, you're not doing a research project, so you don't really have like a big thing to show at the end of it, which I did want. So that's why I chose the research project.
Okay, my name is Jordan and I use she, her pronouns. I did my undergraduate at Queen's University, in Global Development Studies, and I actually continued on here. So I am doing my MA in Global Development Studies here at Queen's. And at Queen's, you have an option between a major research paper or a thesis. And I decided to go with the thesis option, and a major motivator for me in that regard was doing research. So for me, that was a really important part of, completing my master's. I really wanted to get that experience. And at Queen's, doing the thesis is the way to do that. And yeah, so either way, you do take courses in your first year, but with a thesis option, you do get to go into the field and do research there. So that was really important to me. And yeah, I had a really strong connection to the department. So that's why I ended up staying on at Queen's.
Okay. My name is Amelia. I also did my undergrad at Queen's. Thank you to all my Queen's friends for showing up tonight. Um, and my undergrad was in global development studies, and I did a certificate in law as well. And now I'm at UVic doing my master's in political science. And I chose this thesis-based option, primarily because I did an MRP in my last year at Queen's, and I felt like I really wanted to challenge myself a little bit more. And the MRP is kind of something where I personally felt like I'd sort of been there, done that. And I am thinking of PhD programs afterwards, and I would like to have sort of a longer body of work to show for that for PhD applications moving forward. So that was kind of my main motivator.
Amelia, if I could like follow up, how is the MRP so different to like an honors thesis? I know at UVic we have like an undergrad honors thesis. Are they the same or?
Um, so it's around the same length. At Queen's, I know the honors thesis was, I think the max was 30 to 40 pages, which I think is roughly the same as UVic's honors thesis. So in that regard, it's quite similar to like an MA MRP because I think the max for that is also 30 to 40 pages, with the goal of it kind of being like a journal article length that is publishable. Um, I think the main difference is sort of in the level of rigor required. There's definitely a lot more, I guess, like the simplest way to say is like hoops to jump through, for like a master's MRP than there would be, for like an undergraduate honors thesis, but similar length for sure.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. And then Jenna, if you wanted to go.
Sure. What were the questions, just so I know?
Oh, right. Sorry.
I
Thank
was
you
a
for
little
joining.
late, sorry.
Oh, it's totally fine. So just kind of what's your name? What are you studying and kind of why did you pick it? So were you doing a thesis, course-based master's? What kind of major research project? Just kind of what are you doing? Anything you want to say?
Cool. Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Jenna. I use she, her pronouns. I did my undergrad at UVic in political science with a minor in sociology. And I'm currently at UVic as well, doing my master's in a program called the Social Dimensions of Health. So it's an interdisciplinary research-based program, kind of um, looking at different issues of like health equity and intertwining that with like the sociology or politics. And unique part of the program is you have two supervisors, so it is a thesis research-based program. One of my supervisors is Dr. Justin Leifso, and then my other supervisor is Dr. Karen Urbanowski, who is a public health person. So you have to pick two that are kind of in your area of interest, and yeah, that really like approaching that interdisciplinary focus. And so right now I'm in my second year and I'm doing my thesis, and a lot of the program is doing primary kind of in the field research. So I'm going to be doing interviews, and a lot of the other people in my program are doing like community-based research. So it's very like hands-on research-based program.
Awesome. That sounds so cool. So my second question, I guess if you guys want to just go in the order you guys went in the first time, is kind of how did you know it was the right time to pursue graduate studies versus doing a gap year or work experience, or why did you go to grad school? Just whatever you think about that.
I'm not gonna lie. First major reason, I was scared of the big, scary world of finding actual employment outside of like part-time university work. So that was kind of a major one. Also just the way that the political science department at UVic kind of did their honors program, it just kind of felt natural to continue doing research. And it was something I was really passionate about. And so that kind of like eased myself into going, okay, well, let's apply. Most master's programs, the SFU one is like 2 years. So I was like, perfect. I'll see what I'm doing right now. There's a lot of options right now. With if you do a master's, then you have a better chance at getting employment. That isn't like just trying to find an internship and seeing if you can get entry level. So I thought, okay, why not? It's definitely something I probably should have thought about a little bit more before going in because it's very different than undergrad at times, but I am really happy about it and I'm excited. I don't know if PhD is ready yet, but master's is fun.
Yeah, I think I had also kind of a rocky road for ending up here. I had been working while I was doing school for the entire time I was doing school. I like got through without doing student loans, which I was like really proud of in my undergrad. And then I was like, oh shoot, like I wasn't really working in anything that was super industry relevant. Like I did Intel for a while and I did like indigenous diplomacy for a while, but like I was a history undergrad and I was like, where's my museum experience? How will I curate at this rate? And I also kind of got involved in the Young Liberals Policy Summit, where I competed at the federal level on energy policy in my last year as a favor to a friend. And I realized that it was like really entertaining and also just like a great use of my time. And like it meshed with all the stuff I already had. So I was like, might as well weld my two things together. And I applied for things in policy and also things in history. And then I got to that conflict that I was talking about before, where I had to pick between doing history or doing the other one. But I don't think it was ever really a doubt for me that I was going to try and do grad school. Um, I know that, like, especially with a history bachelor's, there wasn't a lot I could do with that. And so, like, either I was going to pursue economic history to the PhD level, or I was going to go do policy and then go do that as a career.
For me, it was similar to what Skyla said. I also did a honors thesis in my undergrad, and I really enjoyed the research aspect. So I knew that I wanted to either continue my project on into my master's degree or start something that was in the same kind of realm. Um, and then also, I think a lot of us can probably attest to finding jobs and then that look really cool and then looking down on the requirements and one of the things being a master's degree. So a lot of the jobs that I was interested in working also, I would apply and I'd hear back and they would say, we're actually only accepting people who have a master's degree or PhD for this role, or in their job description, they would say that. So that also definitely added to the fact of doing grad school. And I also had a bit of I kind of knew that if I took a year off or a semester off, I might lose steam in my kind of desire to do research and go back to school. So I decided to just kind of keep going through onto my master's without a break in between.
Oh, is it my
Yeah.
turn?
Oh, no.
Um,
Um,
oh, sorry.
No worries. So for me, I think what really motivated me to get my master's, along with, yeah, just trying to stay within the academic environment, I was kind of enjoying the routine, I guess you can say, and, going back to school and having that. But also in my last year, I got involved with my now supervisor's project. So I was working on something similar with him, and I was really enjoying it. So finding something that I was really interested in and wanting to kind of build off of really helped motivate me to want to apply for my master's so I could keep working on that project and keep getting research experience. And yeah, especially thinking about the future as well in those job experiences. And yeah, trying to get as much education as I can to, yeah, kind of beef up the resume. Definitely was also a motivating factor.
Uh,
Oh, sorry, I keep,
no, it's okay. Don't worry. Um, I think for me, it was fairly similar to everyone else's explanations. I think what really solidified my decision was I was very split between doing a master's or going to law school. And one of the, I mean, very straightforward, but like great pieces of advice I got from a former professor of mine was like, what can you see yourself doing in like 20, 30 years? Um, and I thought for a long time about, can I see myself being a lawyer? Um, and lo and behold, the answer was no. Um, and I also felt like I had just more to say with my honors thesis that I was doing in undergrad. I felt like I could really continue that project. And of course, the sort of other inspiration was a PhD as well. And that kind of seemed like a natural stepping stone to get my master's because it does open a lot of doors, as other people have sort of said, especially even if I don't go on to do a PhD, so many jobs in our field require a master's nowadays. So it felt like sort of the logical next step.
okay, I think it's actually my turn now. Sorry, everybody. There's so many of us. Um, But for me, I took 2 years off, so I was lucky. I was able to get an internship with the BC legislature. So I did that after I graduated, which then led to me getting a job with the BC government before they had a hiring freeze, which was nice. And I was able to, I was only a TA, so I was thinking about, what I wanted. I always knew I wanted to get a master's and yeah, definitely being out like working and things like that didn't discourage me from getting a master's. Like I felt like that was a goal of mine. And so yeah, if you do think that you want to maybe take a break, like if you really want it, you will still go for it. So and if you're able to have like opportunities of work, then I think that's great too, because a lot of jobs are always asking for so much experience. But um, and then yeah, I think it also gave me time to really think about what I wanted to do for my research project and for my thesis project. But really thinking about that and reaching out to and looking at different programs and different professors and things like that. Because honestly, applying for grad school is like a full-time thing in itself. It's a lot of work. So sometimes you do need to give yourself a little bit more time and space to really think that through as well. Just in my experience, at least.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Just kind of jumping off of that, kind of a general question about like what would you suggest undergrads do during their undergraduate studies to kind of set themselves up for applying to grad school and also for being in grad school? So like what would you tell, your third year self to do in terms of work experience, research, building relationships with profs, and just building habits that are good for grad school? And same order again if that works.
I'm going to become the biggest advocate of the UPS ever right now. I'm so sorry. But get involved with your student unions. Get involved with your political science student unions or your global development student unions or your economics or history student unions, because that's how you meet and talk with professors, because no matter what, they want to get to know you. And that also allows you that I know a lot of people that didn't do honors and didn't go that pathway, but they still managed to meet people. So don't feel like you need to do the honors. I did find the honors was super helpful with getting that little bit more research experience, especially at UVic, where UVic we don't really have like a specific like need for research courses. Like in many other undergrad programs, a research course is mandatory, whereas at UVic it isn't. So do kind of play around with that, even if you don't take the honors. Go to that direction and like take that research design class because it's super fun. But yes, get involved with student unions. It looks good on internships, on resumes, on everything possible. And also, you might get picked on by Justin Leifso in one of your classes if he knows you. So that can be really fun as well.
Yeah, I think Skyla's really right about the student union thing. Like it in as of itself is not actually that great on your resume if you're like VP or something like that. But the important thing is that it introduces you to people. It gets you in the circles. Okay, but it gets you into the circles that you need to be, and you get the you get the personal relationships and references from profs that you need. And like I ended up as president of the history DSC at Queens, and like what I was really finding helpful was the fact that I was on the curriculum committee. And so it meant that I was getting FaceTime with all of these profs like all the time and like arguing with them on equal footing. And it meant that I had to take my education a lot more seriously. Um, I also don't want to be that guy, but like if you can do any quant or statistical like analysis methods classes in your undergrad, you should do that like now. If I could go back to me in the past, I would shake myself and be like, please do quant. Like, I know it's boring, I know it sucks, but like even the barest minimum of it, like understanding how to do regressions and like how to understand statistical relationships will like just make your research cogent and better and be academic grade to a degree that just focusing on like qualitative observations won't necessarily be able to do. And it'll be a big help later on when you are like when people are going to actually look at your research papers to figure out the quality of the research and your capabilities as a researcher. Not that I have anything against qual. I like qual. I'm just saying.
I'm gonna have to agree with Owen because I'm in quant right now, and if I hadn't taken it in my undergrad, I would be even more lost than I already am. So I definitely agree with that. I think another thing is you don't have to necessarily apply for grad school knowing exactly what you want to do research on or have an entire research paper completely laid out. But to have a general idea of what you're interested in is really important. So do a lot of reading in your undergrad on topics that maybe you haven't taken a course, but you have an interest in election politics or in campaigning or something. Do some reading on it to figure out what you're interested in so that you can have an idea of who you want to be your supervisor and who, like what kind of classes you want to take, and do research on a bunch of different grad programs as well, even ones that you think you might not want to go to, just because there's always something out there for everyone in a place that everyone can fit to their liking. So definitely look at as many programs as you can to figure out kind of what you want to do and also a nice, good research interest as well.
Yeah, so I think that everyone who's gone before has already made some really great points that I would definitely attest to as well. And then something else that I think that is really important is to pay attention to, different like grants and things like what types of like, grades that you need to be able to get access to different grants and funding. Sometimes it seems kind of obvious, but sometimes it slips to the back of the mind where you're thinking about, experience, which is also very, very important, like going out there and getting different experiences, finding those interests, but then at the same time paying attention to the grades that you're getting in undergrad and thinking about that early, because that will kind of make or break your access to funding sometimes, depending on what types of things you're applying to. So that's definitely something to keep in mind if you're in your undergrad and you think that maybe continuing on is something that you want to do. So yeah, that's really important.
Um, I think I well, there's a couple things that I found super helpful that I did kind of leading up to grad school. And like Jordan said, the first one was looking into sort of grants and potential funding sources. Because I feel like, as most of us can attest, grad students are perpetually a little bit broke. Um, so having a sort of additional funding source or any sort of extra resource is never a bad thing. Um, for students who are looking to apply within like Canadian grad schools, there's the CGSM, for example. I think it's $30,000 for 12 months. Um, and you apply in December. You can apply in your last year of undergrad, so you get it going into your first year of your master's. Um, we do it for the love of knowledge, not money. Yeah, but I need to eat. Um, So knowing what resources like financially are available to you ahead of time is definitely super helpful. And the second thing that I did was I sent a bajillion like cold call emails to profs at different schools because having connections not only at your sort of like home university, but other schools that you maybe want to apply to is a really great tool. It always looks great on an application when you can say, like, I've met with so and so professor, like they're supporting my application. If like they're willing to put in like a good word for you, that's also great. But making the time to sort of like chat with profs at different schools not just for connections, but also to learn more about like what's the culture of that program. Is it more quant heavy or is it very like qualitative data focused? Like what's the research style? Like meeting profs who maybe have potential like projects that you could be involved in. And just learning more about the different programs was super helpful in sort of helping me decide what school to go to in the end. So find a couple of profs you're interested in at different schools and like send those emails in as soon as you can because their inboxes get flooded. So, yeah, just like being proactive about that sort of stuff.
One thing that I wish I knew more about in my undergrad, um, was that there's different like research groups inside of universities. So I'm currently, one of my supervisors is a part of the Canadian Institute for Substance Use Research. And I was able to end up working on a project about prescribed safer supply here in BC. And learning more about the project, they have projects that are like ready to be taken up by like master's students. They're like things that like they would like to dig into, but they don't have the time to, and different ideas that like that you could potentially jump on. So maybe looking into different like of your interest and research interests and seeing if there's like a research group at a university that offers that. You never know, there might be a project that yeah, you can jump onto and you don't even like have to think too much about what your research interest is or your research project is. And then also usually leads to opportunities of, employment as well. So that's one thing that I think people, I mean, at least I didn't know about as an undergrad. So it's kind of cool.
Thank you guys. Those are super interesting. My next question was going to be about like the considerations you made when choosing a potential supervisor. But I'm curious to know, like, did you make those considerations? Some of you just touched on that, but did you make them like before you went to the program, or was it when you were in the program? And then did you pick, if you're doing a thesis, did you decide your topic beforehand, or was that more so what you did like when you were already in the program? And also, I wasn't going to ask, but if you have any thoughts on funding opportunities, if you haven't shared already, that'd be great too. Thank you.
Yeah, just to note, so SFU has a bunch of internal funding that they provide for many students, as well as like guaranteed TA-ships. So that was kind of a big part. And then no matter what, any Canadian university to go to, they're like apply for the big government funding. So that's kind of the big thing that like I just recently applied for it. And it's a big application, but it's well worth it if you apply anyway. So it's good exercises. I actually went in with a application where all I wanted to do with grad school is I wanted to find a professor and supervisor that I knew I would be able to work with. So I actually only applied to SFU because I started looking for professors that I was interested in working with who had similar interests that I did. My research area looks at the role of youth during election cycles and the influence that they make. And so I actually emailed this professor who is now my supervisor, and I was like, "Hey, can we meet over Zoom?" And immediately I met them over Zoom. We kind of kikied, we met, we had a great time. And she was like, if you get into the program, I'll happily supervise you. And so coming up there and just being like, this is what I'm interested in, was huge. Chris, who was supposed to be here tonight, They actually gave me a bunch of like email templates. So if you have a chance to like email any of us, kind of communicate with us, see if you can, that would be really awesome. Because those email templates were super helpful just doing those emails, because it can be quite daunting to email a professor who's like PhD, like a top tier research scholar, and be like, hey, I'm in my undergrad and I'm interested in working with you. Like smooth it over a bit, tell them that you've like read some of their articles and things like that because they like to see it, and have some kind of clear pathway of what you're passionate in, that hopefully they can connect with. But yeah, I say go in with some kind of idea of what professor you're interested in working with, because it can really make or break your research area and what you're interested in, because you have to work with these people and you have to like schedule and come up with different plans to complete a project if you're going into a thesis area. So I find, see if you can get Zoom calls. There was a lot that UBC profs didn't want a Zoom call with me, but maybe I was just not the right fit for them. So yeah, that's was kind of my area. But I also had a great supervisor when I was at UVic in my honors. So that kind of also steered me in that way of going, I want to work with someone that I know I can work with. So, yeah.
I mean, I don't have nearly as much to say. Like, because my program is a top master's, I kind of went into it knowing, and also because it's a double degree program, so I'm technically getting my degree for half price. I don't actually have any access to a lot of funding opportunities. I can't get any internal funding, and the only external funding I'm able to get is federal level grants. So I can get like a shirk, but I can't get like any internal things, which is very tough. But I was lucky because I had saved up a nest egg over my university, but like a lot of people obviously won't have that option. Um, I think when I was applying for research masters, I agree with what Skylar said. Like, read their articles. Like, don't just like really freeball it. Read their little like blurb on their LinkedIn. Like, actually go in and read, because you find out that they're super crazy. And like, I think the exact opposite thing from you. You probably don't want them as your supervisor, and it's more common than you think. Like, it happens all the time. It's like you're reading something, you're like, oh, wait a second. You're kind of racist. Or like I did like the economics of prisoner disenfranchisement was my pitch for a prof, and the one who I really liked, who was at Cambridge, ended up flying me out to a conference in the Netherlands on prisoner disenfranchisement, so we could actually go talk in person. And like, if you can get those personal connections on somebody's research and be like, I actually have like access to information that you might like, because it's also like a give as well as a take. Like, you can be like, I know this, this, and this. I have these surveys that I've concocted or done over the course of my time. Like, would you be interested in coffee chatting or whatever? And like, it doesn't have to be a big deal, but like the important thing is just to give you more than just a cold call.
Yeah, so funding wise, Skylar pretty much covered it. There's internal funding. There's also some funding through like the Graduate Student Society at SFU as well, which is really nice that you have access to. It's very, like Skylar just pointed out, it's a very small amount. But yeah, and then we were all encouraged by our professor for our general research course to do short grants or any government grants that we could get our hands on to get applications in on that. And then as for supervisors, I just to echo what everyone has said is read their articles, make sure that they have a research style that kind of fits into how you want to do your research as well. And if you have the opportunity, have talks with them. I had a few talks with some professors at Queen's when I was considering staying there for my master's, and it was really great as an opportunity for me to realize that there wasn't really someone there to support my research interest, so then I could pick somewhere else to go. And then as for my SFU application, I did not do what did, and I did not reach out to any of the profs. But I really lucked out by just doing reading on their articles, or just kind of trying to deep dive as much as I could on them, which most of them have a website that has all of their publications. So if you search their name, you'll probably wind up on their website. So I ended up doing that. And yeah, it's really important to have like initial meetings when you first get into grad school, because I don't know, I can't speak for other universities, but at least at SFU, most of the profs are really kind in the way that they say, if my research area is not aligning with yours, you can switch supervisors. So that's a big thing. If you're not aligning with them research-wise, or they're not really giving what you need, or you're not able to meet deadlines that they want, feel free to talk to someone about switching your supervisor as well.
Okay, yeah. So in terms of funding, at Queen's, we are lucky in the sense that you do have guaranteed funding for masters through guaranteed TA-ships, as well as some different internal funding. And they also, of course, again, encourage you to apply for the big government grants, so SHIRK and CGS. And then if you're lucky, you can also get funding through your supervisor specifically, which I was lucky enough that my supervisor was able to, yeah, allocate some of his funding towards supporting my research projects as well. And then, yeah, in terms of supervisors, I worked with my supervisor during my undergrad. So I knew that our interests aligned. So it was easy to kind of code together in that regard. But still, it was really important to, I think, when deciding whether or not he would be my supervisor for my master's, to really consider, again, as Owen was saying, like what the professor can do for you as well. So, what resources they have to support you and your project, whether that's monetarily, but also within like the connections that they have and like how can they support you and making sure that your research is as successful as possible. So yeah, whether that's getting you access to different conferences or having access to people on the ground where you're doing your research to help facilitate those connections for interviews and things like that. And yeah, just making sure that your interests, of course, align and you are actually able to get that support that you need if you have different questions and yeah, just in general, like helping see through that research. So I think that that is, yeah, really important and having that working relationship as well.
So in terms of, I guess, choosing a potential supervisor, I would definitely echo the sentiment of making sure that they are able to support you. So one of the biggest things in sort of influencing my decision to come to UVic was having the chance to meet with my supervisor ahead of time and discuss sort of our work styles and expectations. Um, and just making sure that you're going to align in terms of that. But also, it's always a bonus if they have um, a research project that they're working on and they can allocate some of that funding to you. So I was lucky enough to get an RA position with my supervisor. In addition to the guaranteed TA-ship and fellowship that UVic offers. And that was definitely sort of a big sway in why I came to UVic. Um, but also on a personal level, making sure that you can see yourself working with this person for 2 years. There were plenty of people that I spoke to over Zoom, and this is why I advocate so much for like meeting ahead of time if you can and like talking to people because there were so many people where like I read their research profile and I was like, wow, they seem very cool. And then I got on a Zoom call with them and it was like, oh, you're kind of mean. I don't know that I want to work with you for 2 years. Um, so yes, having your interests align is a big deal, but also making sure on a personal level, that they're going to, be able to support you instead of driving you crazy for 2 years. If you're someone that needs like frequent check-ins and you like that kind of open line of communication, having a prof at like a really big school like U of T might be a bit more challenging because it's a big school. Profs are often quite busy, just by nature of like having a larger student body. And for me, that was a deal breaker. So I really wanted to make sure that I was kind of in constant communication with my supervisor. So also, I guess just thinking about like, what are your deal breakers? What are you looking for in a supervisor? Um, and yeah.
I think pretty much everything's been covered. I did want to just touch on if you're interested in doing a course-based program. often there's not a lot of funding compared to a thesis or research-based program. So you might get an entrance scholarship, but for the most part, you won't be getting a lot of funding for those types of programs. But often you get a little bit more. Sometimes there's co-ops involved, like at UVic's programs and things like that. So there might be opportunities for that, which I'm not sure are paid or not, but there could be. Um, so just something to keep in mind if people are interested in a program that's, yeah, just course-based.
I was gonna follow up with Amelia's point. You mentioned fellowships and TAing. Which one of you do all TA? Or is it okay, all of you? Okay. Does anyone want to tell us about your experience with that? I know I'm like thinking about trying to TA next year or in grad school. It seems interesting.
Um, I can just jump in. So this is kind of my first year TAing. I didn't TA at Queens. So what UVic does is, at least for your first year, they guarantee a TA-ship. So you still have to apply just as a technicality, um, but you should have a TA-ship for at least fall semester. And then I also TA this semester as well. Um, and how do I say this as bureaucratically as possible? It's very tiring. And oftentimes I think TAs do feel like they don't get paid enough. Um, but it's also very rewarding, I think, especially if you're TAing a course that's directly related to your interests. It's very fun to kind of like share that passion with students and like have the chance to mentor some of them if they're interested in like similar research. And sort of getting to know your students and watching them succeed. Is definitely like a very satisfying feeling. Um, I would say sort of the biggest thing for those that are maybe thinking of TAing is making sure that you are in communication with the prof that's teaching the course and also other TAs on the teaching team if that's something that you find yourself in um, making sure that you are all on the same page because there's nothing more frustrating. I'm sure, like we've all been there. There's nothing more frustrating than having a TA say one thing and a prop say something completely different. Um, so making sure that you guys are all clear on expectations, due dates, assignment sort of guidelines. Um, is something that you wouldn't really think of as being like super, super important, but it can really make or break a student's experience in a class.
Awesome. Thank you. Does anyone else want to jump in or I can move on to the next question?
At SFU, and I believe UVic also does this, there are two different types of TAing. So there's TAing, which is teacher assistant. You guide tutorials, usually in like political science programs. That's a big deal. And then there's also TMing, which is just teacher marking. You're just marking. So even if you get a guaranteed TA-ship, you don't have to physically TA if you don't want to be that center of attention, which is kind of nice. I like the TAing aspect, but I'm also a yapper, so it's different.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. So my next question is about kind of how you cultivated relationships with profs during undergrad and how you went about approaching them for references. So kind of were the TAs or profs that you worked a lot with, or were they your honor supervisor? And what did you say to them?
Oh, okay, me again. Um, because I did honors, I had that built in one of my profs who would be a professor for a reference letter. And then it just became a question of who did I do well in classes with? Who do I know well? Who says hello to me in the hallways? I remember I would go to Dr. Clark's office and be like, please, can you be my reference letter? And then I talked to so many other different people, like Feng Shu was a big part of it as well. But really, my major thing is ask these letters early. Do not ask them a week or 2 weeks before this reference letter is due, and then keep following up with them because they have a super busy schedule. The amount of times I met people that were like, oh, I'll just ask them hand off. Like I've got a week until something is due. Maybe you can do that with your supervisor, but Anything else, they will say no. Immediately, they will say no. There's a professor at SFU that has a rule that you can ask her at the beginning of the semester and she fills up a slot, and that's it. So many profs also have that position. So you need to be on the ball when it comes to reference letters.
Skyla is speaking facts. I think also for me, not just like looking at what my prof, whether or not my prof liked me, but what like topic my prof is a specialty is in. So like somebody who maybe would have liked me more, but wasn't inside my topic area. I didn't prioritize over somebody who was like in legal history. And had had like a previous history of publishing just because they have relationships with people who are in those programs and it's because their name carries more weight inside those fields. I think also it really depends, like if you can pick a prof who's from the same alma mater as the school you're applying to, that also counts for more. So like I would ask different references. I had like different sets of references for each different school I was applying to. And that can also help if you're trying to like bust down the workload a little bit for them, just because then you can split it up, but you need to be the one who's on top of that. Like you need to have your Excel document open from day one and be filling in what's going on where and when the due dates are. And also for pro tip, like Skyla was saying, like you should put the due date of what your when the actual thing is due on every email you send them. Like literally, like highlight it, be like, this is when it's due, this is when I need it by, and I'm gonna give you like here's like a week ahead of time. Like please have it to me by then because I need to fill out whatever else extra stuff they need to do.
Yeah, Owen and Skylar are so right. Make the subject line also the date, like literally everything. Put the date on there 4 times. If you think it's enough, it's not, add it again. Um, also, so for me, I also did the honors program, so I had a relationship with a supervisor that I could rely on to do my reference letters. And then, like Owen was saying, people who hold a lot of weight in a department, that's really good to have them as a reference. So I was lucky enough that I made a good relationship with the undergraduate chair for my department. So I had her as a reference, which that was very lucky of me. I had done well in her course. I'd taken multiple of her courses. So definitely look at who you've done well in their courses because the last thing you want is someone who you got a mediocre mark in, like their course, giving you a reference letter, because they probably won't have the glowing recommendation that you are wanting to get from them. Also, if you have noticed, if you log on to your like grad student application portal and you notice that a prof has not submitted your reference letter and it's like a week from the due date, send them an email. Don't think like, oh, they'll get around to it. Sometimes you need to harass profs just because they are so busy. And honestly, if it's between you getting into grad school and you thinking like, oh, this prof might get annoyed by another email from me, I promise you they probably just forgot and they're not going to get annoyed by you. And if they do, then maybe they shouldn't be your reference. But yeah, definitely send emails to people if they have not followed through on a commitment that they made to you for giving a reference letter.
Right. Yeah, I think that everyone has already made really great points. I think another thing, it sounds really cliche, but put yourself out there. So if you're, yeah, taking a class and you're really interested in the work that the professor is doing, go up and talk to them about it. I think that that is how I built relationships with a lot of profs was, listening to what they were doing, asking them about it, and trying to get involved with their work. Like if someone was doing a really interesting project that I thought was cool, I went up and asked them how I could get involved, or like if they were looking for students to get involved with their research, because you never know when that off chance, they might just happen to agree and like let you in on something where they might have not even necessarily been looking for someone, but you just get lucky. So putting yourself out there really, really helps. Like that's how I got involved with my supervisor's work, just being like, hey, that's really awesome. Like, how can I get involved too? So that really does go a long way. I think also for undergrads, I would really recommend if your schools have them getting involved
like professional development courses. So different courses where you can go and like do internships and things like that. I think that was really crucial in my undergrad as well. And I was able to get really close with the professor who was running that course. And he did a lot of references for me. And then they know you academically and professionally. So it's really good to build up those relationships as well and those skills. So I think those are helpful as well.
Yeah, I would definitely echo putting yourself out there. I think some of the strongest relationships that I formed with professors in my undergrad, were from me just yapping in like smaller seminars. I think for any of us who TA, we can kind of all agree on the fact that the students who speak up when there's like a really awkward silence in our tutorials, are definitely the ones, um, we remember and are like thankful for. And I'm sure that it's the same in seminars. If you show passion and enthusiasm for something that they're teaching, and you kind of constantly make like uh, that known, I think that's a really great way to kind of have them remember who you are and opens doors, sort of as Jordan said, to try and get yourself involved in work that they're doing outside of that. Um, and of course, having like an honor supervisor is a great way to kind of like have someone down as like a concrete reference. But also getting involved in clubs or student unions that have connections with professors otherwise. That is how I got. Another one of my references was doing advocacy work on campus that sort of connected to work that profs were doing. Um, and so I got to know some professors outside of like a typical classroom setting, um, which made for, I think, like more personal references, which is always nice when they can really speak to like who you are as a person as well. And it's not just like a generic reference letter. Um, and I would definitely echo everyone else saying, you have to be on it about reference letters. I think that I sent my request for letters out in like October, just so I could give profs as much lead up time as possible, because they get so many requests. And then I think I sent out follow-up emails like once a month until they were submitted, because there are definitely profs that like if the deadline is December 1st, they will leave it until the last day, um, and you will be there freaking out and writing emails. So just get to it as soon as you can. And I would definitely sort of agree with putting like the word like urgent or the deadline in the subject of your email as it gets closer to the date.
Sweet. The only couple things I can think of that hasn't been said is sometimes profs like you to have your resume attached to their request. So you could be like, oh, also, if you want to pull from some of my other experience, here's this. I've had profs request that I write out a few sentences that I might want in the reference letter. So that might be a thing. And if you are taking a gap year or two, and you reach out to profs that you haven't talked to for a while, yeah, just reminding them about your experience with the class, maybe what grade you got, and just refreshing their memory of who you are is helpful as well for them. Honestly, any way that you can like spoon feed them and make it as easy as possible, often they really appreciate that.
Awesome. Thank you guys. That was actually very helpful. And my other question is kind of about how grad school differs from undergrad day to day. So as I understand it, it's like a lot less time in the classroom. But yeah, can you tell us more about that, kind of what you could expect, the differences?
One big thing is you really have to do the readings. Most of my undergrad, there was times where like there was classes where I was like, it's gonna be covered in the lecture. It's fine. I don't need to do readings. If you don't do readings, it bites you in the ass. I'm sorry, but it does. Just because all of your like courses that you take, and you don't have to take as many courses, especially for a thesis. You usually do like a year of courses and then like a year of research. Um, Those courses are all seminar. They're all exactly like a fourth year seminar class you take in your undergrad. And with those, you need to be on the ball with doing your readings, preparing for class, and writing all your papers and doing all your notes and everything like that, because profs are not going to spoon feed. They are not going to hold your hand through the process. There might be a prof every so often who gives you a study guide. Bless them. They're amazing human beings. But most of the time, you got to do the work. You got to be on the ball. So definitely be aware that you can't just like skim the surface like you do in undergrad. No, no, no. You got to get on it. And also, grad school is a lot more stressful. I won't lie. There's times where I like the academic imposter syndrome creeps up and I'm like, because that's just what it is. You start comparing yourself, questioning yourself. Be true to yourself. Like you managed to get into grad school, that is already hard enough. And also like the amount of people that are in the same boat as you throughout grad school, where everyone's going, "Am I doing this right? What's going on?" So that's also nice. So build those connections, do those potlucks, go out for drinks. As your social kind of life is really important in grad school as well, because it can be quite isolating if you don't. So really, really have those people. Lizzie is our person in our grad cohort who like plans all the stuff and goes, "Let's go out for drinks." And so if there's no one in your grad cohort that's like that, you got to become that person. Because grad school is a bit more of like a process of you have to be the one doing it. But it can be really fun. And if you're passionate about it and you're passionate about the research and the learning opportunities, then by all means, it can be really fun. But yeah, do your readings.
Yeah, even though I'm in a top master's, I feel like definitely the ratings thing is absolutely true. And like to keep it short and sweet, don't in a million bajillion quadrillion years use AI, please. I am begging you because like not only can the prof tell very easily when you're getting to grad school level material, like, but also a lot of the time you are expected to be a lot more creative than you are in your undergrad, and they're expecting a lot more from you. Like they're expecting not just that you engage with the materials and you compare it back to them, but tell them why it's wrong. Like, what's your critical opinion on why this paper's methodology fails here, here, and here? And like, I don't know. That part can be kind of a struggle academically. And about the social thing, yeah, people get very clicky. People get clicky in any part of education ever. But I feel like, especially in grad school, what can happen is like if people do end up being isolated and there isn't like big unifying events and things like that, that what will end up happening is that like it can be difficult to penetrate into those groups because there's not these big giant events that you have in things like undergrad where like everyone is going and eating in the same hall or whatever because you're an adult and you're in your apartment and you're not like interacting with each other as frequently. And so yeah, like Skylar said, like try to be the person to organize big giant events because those are the things that like will bring people together. Or even just have like an open door policy and be like, if people want to like come and hang out, like we're doing a game night or whatever, and like that stuff can really help people feel included.
So I would definitely say Skyla is right. You gotta, readings are one of the most important things. And as much as like I must say in my undergrad, I would neglect doing readings or I do skims or something that just does not fly, at least. Especially in certain courses, like if you're in, for example, a quantitative research course and you don't do the readings, you're just not going to know what's going on. Or if you're taking like a very intensive theoretical course, you're just not gonna really understand what's happening unless you're keeping up to date. I definitely think even though we don't have as many classes, I find that my workload is a lot bigger than in my undergrad, at least, because on top of classes, you're doing your own research, and if you're TAing, you also are maybe you're marking 50 papers in a week and a half, and you have to turn around all these marks and comments and all of that. So it definitely there's a bigger time management aspect to it than in your undergrad. And then, yeah, build connections, make friends, and also don't be afraid to talk to people. Everyone is also nervous to be there and dealing with the same kind of feeling of, oh, am I supposed to be in grad school? Should I have done this? Should I have done that? So talk to each other and support each other throughout your time as well.
Yeah, so I think building off of all the things that everyone else said, I think one of the big difference is definitely like a lot more of the onus is on you. Like there's not as much structure, I would say, especially if you are someone who has maybe a more hands-off supervisor. It's really on you to make your own deadlines and find the time yourself. So you really have to be dedicated to, find the time to actually write. So as a procrastinator, and I myself am a procrastinator, that can be a little bit difficult sometimes, because, you don't have those due dates like you do in undergrad where you're having to get things in by a certain time. So I think that can be a little bit of a struggle sometimes, just like actually going and doing it, when you much rather, just not. So definitely, yeah, trying to create that structure for yourself is really important. And I think a big difference from undergrad that I didn't really think as much about until I got here. And I was like, oh, now I have to do this all myself and actually motivate yourself to get it all done.
Yeah, I think a lot of the time, one of the biggest differences I notice from undergrad to grad school is that for me, grad school feels a lot more like going to work a lot of the time, especially when you're TAing. I mean, that is work. Um, but one thing that profs told us when we were first starting was to treat grad school kind of like a 9 to 5. And primarily, I think that's most important for the reasons that Jordan kind of got at. There's a lot less structure. Profs very typically, at least in the seminars that I've had, kind of just say like, don't really care when you hand in your final paper, just like anytime, before the semester's done. Um, and that can be great because you're kind of your own boss in a sense, but for procrastinators like myself, it can also be a curse because I will leave it until 2 days before. So what I've kind of gotten to the habit of doing is, 9 to 5, even if I don't have a class that day, even if I'm not teaching that day, I'll like chip away at a paper that I have due like a month from then, or like I'll make sure that I have all my readings done. Like doing something each day, um, has been super helpful and sort of just treating it like a job. But making sure that when it turns like 5 o'clock or whatever sort of time that you've set for yourself, you take a step back and like give yourself some self-care time, and like get enough sleep. Um, and yeah, just like knowing when to separate yourself from work, because I think with grad school, those lines between like work and school and like personal life become very blurred unless you sort of make sure to set those clear boundaries and like set yourself like a schedule, and like make to-do lists and like have things very like clearly written out. That's been very helpful for me, because in undergrad I think you don't realize how structured it is until you get to grad school and you notice like that's missing.
I feel like everyone has said everything. I did find like the first semester of grad school to be rough. Like it was a steep curve, like learning curve and workload curve. Like 3 courses in grad school is a full course load, which you're like, oh, 3 courses. No, it's a lot. It's a lot of work. And like everybody said, there's a lot of readings every week. And so really being like prepared for that yes, I agree, like self-care is super important, but there will be some sacrifices that you have to make, I think, in terms of like your social life and things like that for a few, like at least, a couple semesters. So expect that and that's totally normal. And yeah, lean on your fellow classmates to get work done. And it's awesome the grads student society at UVic, they have every Wednesday they have free coffee. So find those free coffee events and get the free food when you can and connect with your fellow classmates. Because yeah, definitely that social support really helpful, especially you won't be seeing maybe some of your friends outside of grad school as much. So they become pretty important to you.
Awesome.
I
Thank
just
you
have
guys. Oh, no, you go.
Yeah, sorry. I just have one more thing to add for people who are studying like outside of Canada, if you're doing that for your grad school, is that you really should expect your marks to take a hit. I know like people are kind of aware that the American system is inflated and the Canadian system is inflated, but like if you go overseas, it becomes very obvious very quickly. And like I had 4.0 unadjusted in my undergrad, and then when I came overseas, it's like I got to right now I'm at like a second class, so like high merits in the UK, which is like good. It's like B marks, but like it's still like people who I've known who were at the same marks as me are like failing now in undergrad and in their grad school. And the other thing is like if especially in Britain, like almost everyone is around like 55, 65 range in all of the assignments you hand in. So you are very, very close to failing at all times and like especially exams end up being weighted very very highly, so like in two of my classes they're like 70%, and so it's like when you do exams or classes or things like that in places where they are graded, they can be pretty harsh and uh like not to be spooky, but like you should keep an eye out for that, and you should know that it's not about you or the quality of work that you're producing. It's the same work it's always been. It's just a different system, and it's a little harsher.
Thank you. That was really interesting. I'm also thinking about maybe going abroad for my master's. That's good to know. My last question is about kind of what doors grad school has opened for you. So cool people you've met, cool profs you've met, job opportunities, kind of stuff you might have learned about what you might want to do after. So like academia, industry. Does anything just cool to close off with?
Yeah. So I've gotten to meet Lizzie, so that's pretty cool. I've got to meet some wonderful people, some very passionate people. I find in your undergrad, you meet lots of people that are like, yeah, I'm taking this because like I'm interested. Whereas like in grad school, you meet people that are like, I'm super passionate about this. Let's talk and yap for hours about this really cool niche intersection between sports and politics. And you're just like, this is so cool. So that's super fun. The profs that I've gotten to meet are really exciting. I mean, the profs at UVic are also really awesome. So do get a chance to talk to them. They're always excited to meet people. Um, I've also had the opportunity where I am now kind of part-time living in Vancouver. So I've been networking and I have had the opportunity to now I get to work on a municipal campaign with the upcoming municipal election. So that's quite exciting. But again, that also comes down to like I reached out to people on LinkedIn. So I'm not gonna lie, guys, LinkedIn is kind of a big thing in grad school most of the time. So do be aware of that. But yeah, it just really depends on like if you put yourself out there, if you're passionate about it, people are gonna reciprocate and it can be really exciting. So yeah. But I mean, it's only my first year, so I can't give you any more than that. But yeah.
Yeah, I've been really excited about my school so far. I the running joke is that nobody goes to LSE for the teaching. It's kind of true. Like we have a really really good cast of like global people who are willing to go to the school to go lecture, especially economists because it's such a big name. So like I went to the Nobel Prize lecture last night. I have like gotten the really wonderful opportunity to meet another two Nobel laureates. I'm in Brussels right now, going to the European Commission. We have like exclusive options for like careers events and things like that that are like direct hires, which I am very excited about uh, because I need a job. But no, it's other than that, like the big thing is the people who you meet. Like, and the type of people who you're meeting in grad school often are much more impassioned about the things they are, and often also a lot more successful at the things that they're doing because they want to go lecture grad students. They want to go lecture people who are at like a high caliber and that they can like spend time and energy on and feel a return on. I also will give rep to the U of T career link. U of T is terrible for many, many, many things. There's a reason why they have one of the highest depression rates in Canada, but they do have a very good career service. And right now, my MGA program has like a 98% placement rate for internships. So, like, hype to U of T.
I definitely think there's, like Skyla has said and like Owen has said, so many people that I've met that have just been so cool and wanting to talk about things that they're actually invested in rather than like Skyla said, just the classic, oh, I guess I'm taking this course because it sounded like an easy grade or something like that. Like no one takes a course because it sounds like an easy grade. People take a course because they actually are interested in it, which is really refreshing because sometimes you get a group project in these courses, and if you get a group project with people who are not going to try, you do not want to be there. Trust me, especially in grad school. Um, for me personally, work-wise, I've got an opportunity this summer to do research with the UN University, which you have to be a master's student to do. So really excited about that. And there are other research positions open at SFU sometimes that open up in the department, either with a professor or something like that. So and those opportunities only go to master's or PhD students. So there's always jobs here and there that you can get in with in your university or even another university.
Yeah, I would definitely echo the fact that you, of course, meet so many really interesting professionals and people in the field. But I would also say that I've really enjoyed, getting the chance to grow my skills in many different ways, like whether that's, getting practical experience in the field. I mean, my research is abroad, so over the past summer, I got the chance to travel to Tanzania and conduct my research there. So that was a really great experience, getting to present at different conferences and gain different like public speaking skills. So yeah, just the skills that you gain and the people that you meet along the way, I think are really valuable and exciting part of grad school.
I guess I'll just kind of echo everyone else in like the people you meet area. I feel like a lot of times I have to sort of stop and just like shake myself because sometimes it feels a little bit surreal to have the opportunity to meet so many interesting and cool people. Like I remember anyone who, I guess everyone here, our panelists have had the experience of like seeing one author's name pop up over and over and over again as they're doing their research. And I think one of the kind of like coolest, like nerdiest things for me was having the opportunity to talk to a couple of these authors who I had cited a bajillion times throughout my undergrad. Just like casually having a conversation with them, like um as a grad student and having the opportunity right now I work with a branch of an NGO called Team Congo because my research focuses um, on mining in the Congo, and so I've taken on a position as like the team sort of like lead or like research expert for that branch of the NGO. And if you had told me in my third year that like I had the opportunity to do that, I would have laughed. Like I would not have believed it. So it's just very cool to be able to kind of like put your passion and your skills and your knowledge to use in real life and like sort of see your efforts like come to fruition. Like it's very satisfying to kind of like see a career begin to develop out of like something you are interested in and love so much. So yeah.
One thing I wanted to echo is about public speaking and presentations. I don't know if this is um, similar to other people's programs, but in every class I've taken, I've had to do some sort of presentation. So that's a big part of grad school is learning that skill of being able to talk about your research, talk about your interest and do presenting. Um, and then, yeah, for me, I was able to land a job working as a research assistant and a peer research coordinator for this project that is evaluating prescribed safer supply here in BC. It's like a huge project, and one of my roles is I support peer researchers. So they're people who are out in the community, people who use drugs or who have lived or living experience who are actually informing the research. So it's been really cool to be a part of research that is kind of aligns with my values, and I think quite innovative in the sense of it involving the people um, who are actually being impacted by the policies that we're researching. So that's been a really cool opportunity. And yeah, you never know what kind of opportunities you might find with grad school and where that might lead you. So that's always exciting.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. That was so helpful. I'm just gonna open the floor if anyone has any questions they want to ask or drop in the chat. Let's wait for a second. No, I think you guys were so comprehensive. We're good. So yeah, I don't want to take any more of your time today, especially you, Owen. You should probably go to bed. So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. I'm sorry we couldn't get Dr. Glazos out today. But yeah, hopefully we'll get him on later. Yeah, thank you guys so much. I really learned a lot. It was great to meet all of you. Bye.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Grace.
you.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.